and thank you for tuning in to the AAU TV Mid-Week news, coming to you live from the headquarters of the Association of African Universities in Accra, Ghana. My name is Lydia Nyame, and with me are
Jemima, Deladem, Dotsey.
And my name is Agyemang, Okyere, Darko.
And now the headlines on higher education. New project aims to foster students' health and well-being. And again, female academic makes history by being appointed Prime Minister.
And in our health news, study reveals how high-fat diet allows cancer to go unnoticed. And also, AI-driven dynamic face masks adapt to exercise pollution levels.
We are glad time to join us on the AAU TV Mid-Week news. Stay with us. We'll go for a short break. We'll bring you more news on health and higher education. Be with us.
Welcome to GTP Health and Safety Corner. If you feel like stepping out, remember social distancing. You might just save a life. Rock at home, stay safe. Wash your hands with soap and the running water. Spaced out but still in touch. Check in on your loved ones and stay safe. GTP, timeless.
Welcome back from the break. And the University of Nairobi, in partnership with UNESCO and Mount Kenya University, has recently launched a project that seeks to promote the health and well-being of students in higher learning institutions and tertiary institutions in the Eastern and Southern African regions. Initiative, also known as O+, will be implemented in Kenya, Tanzania, Zimbabwe and Zambia, and delivered in 4 pillars, including supporting students' health and well-being, promoting a safe campus environment, institutional strengthening for sustainability, and evidence-based building and knowledge-sharing platforms. The Vice-Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, Professor Stephen Kiama, said young people in higher learning institutions are exposed to sexual reproductive health and rights-related challenges, facing risks such as gender-based violence, unintended pregnancies, alcohol, substance abuse, and HIV infections. While there have been significant focus and investment in Kenya on increasing the provision of sexuality education at the basic level, very little attention has been paid to the status of sexuality education and service provision within higher and tertiary education institutions, he added. Kiama said a recent study conducted by the University of Nairobi scholars in collaboration with youth empowerment organization I Choose Life Africa indicated that 78% of students were dating, 68.9% were sexually active, while 54% reported having tested for HIV in the past 6 months at the time of the study. The study also found that of the 65% of students who reported having been pregnant while on campus, 38.9% reported having had abortions. Additionally, 40.5% of the total respondents were partaking in the consumption of alcohol, 13.3% were using marijuana, and about 1% were taking heroin and cocaine. That is it from Kenya, and Kenya to implement an amazing project also known as the O3+ project. But Agyemang, tell us, what is the background of this O3+ project?
Well, I want to say kudos to the O3+ project because it's come at the right time where we find very uncomfortable situations on the campus of the University of Nairobi and also in the Eastern and Southern African region in Africa. But it starts with the UNESCO, Mount Kenya University, and also the University of Nairobi, seeing to it that we organize an O3+ project to ensure that students' sexually reproductive mental health programs are enhanced. It has 4 pillars, very, very interesting pillars. Number 1 is to support students' health well-being. Secondly, to promote a safe campus environment. Thirdly, to enhance institutional strengthening and sustainability. And finally, create more evidence building and knowledge sharing platforms. It has come at a time where we need to ensure that campuses are safe for students to thrive. The reason why they're there is to gain more academic excellence, and they have to focus that. However, there is a need for them to socialize, and we need to create healthy socialization patterns for them, so they don't go there to develop some sort of bad behavior society. Rather, they go there to develop the good things. So I think O3 Plus is a good project to ensure that all these factors are really tailored.
Okay, Jemima.
Okay, I would say the O3 Plus, is a well-crafted initiative that has students at heart. And I would say the O3 Plus stands for our right, our lives, our future, which we see that they are key components in the development of higher education structure in Africa and also globally. And looking at the objectives that Agyemang stated, the supporting, promoting, and the strengthening and evidence building, I believe the adoption of this initiative by higher education institutions in Kenya and Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and Zambia, emulated by other higher education institutions in Africa. And according to a research, the UNESCO, which is the United Nations Scientific and Cultural Organization, according to them, a total number of 33 African countries out of 54 are linked to this program. So I think that is more than half. So I think we are making progress with such a project, and it's a good one for us.
That's quite amazing, an amazing figures we have right there. But let's also talk about how this mission, the mission of this O+ project, will enhance creation, awareness creation, in order to foster students' health and well-being. Agyemang?
Well, I will just start with a study that was concluded by the University of Nairobi and also the I Choose Life organization. And they came up with very shocking findings. Out of the student population, 78% were dating. It's not a bad thing for students to date in the university. 68.9% were sexually active, which is inevitable. 54% were reported HIV positive. This is quite strange. For the past 6 months before the study was conducted, it tells you a lot that the eye on counseling and guidance perhaps has been relaxed, because if students are allowed to enjoy campus life, there's nothing wrong with it though, but there should be...
But when it comes to students contracting HIV, I personally think it's a global issue. It isn't an issue of just Kenya alone, or an issue that is just in Africa. Recently, you see countries coming out with their HIV statistics, and it's so disheartening. But the sad aspect is we see our youth contracting HIV/AIDS day in and day out. So the question is, what aren't we doing right?
That's what I was saying, that it's a matter of, this is the situation. We look at the environment. This is the university environment, not the general public. You can't control that, but you can control the university, because we have leaders on the campus who ensure that students are given the right regulations. However, how do you streamline activities on campus to ensure students don't go overboard? One, there's a unit responsible for that, the counseling and guidance unit. What is the role of these units? To engage students on their sexual, reproductive, mental, other emotional, even physical needs.
Wouldn't it be too late to educate students on their
because I
sexual
feel as at that
needs
time,
they are in the university?
They are just in it.
Surprisingly, Professor Stephen Kiyama in his speech mentioned that it is something that has to be enhanced. That he is surprised that students have come to university and have no clue on how to live their life and develop themselves well in that area.
Who says students have no clues on how to develop their life?
Well, the record says so.
I think it's about time young people take charge of their own lives and their own actions.
Exactly.
Just because you are going around contracting HIV/AIDS does not mean you were not given the necessary education.
I started recording. Let me refer to the topic. See, the study was enhancing the assessment of sexual reproductive health and mental health services and practices among university students. This study also provided that 65% of students on that campus or on the campus were pregnant. 36.9% had abortions. And he was surprised that these students were able to go that far.
Exactly.
To cause that damage to themselves.
I think that
abortions and impregnation.
That is where my point comes in.
While they knew contraceptives.
If the students did not know abortion, do you think they would have chosen it as an option?
Exactly.
The university is shocked by the fact that they could have prevented abortions and pregnancy by using contraceptives. I know some CSOs and NGOs who go around universities sharing condoms.
Sure. Exactly.
They surpass books and pens and share condoms. and they take it because it's good. Yes, because as part of their social life on campus, they must have those kind of activities. Well, I can't really check that though. But we
Agyemang,
need
you said
to be
they must have such activities.
No, I didn't say they must. I mean,
you
it's
actually
inevitable.
Yeah,
She's really
that was what you said.
It's inevitable. You can't have your eye on people everywhere they go.
Mm-hmm.
It will happen. But it has to be done responsibly. That's why we have contraceptives. So if we can record pregnancies and abortions, it means somebody's doing their job very well.
And who is that somebody? Because I think it starts from the basic. Parents have a responsibility.
Yeah, he mentioned
Exactly.
that it's important that we have to start teaching sexual reproductive health and mental health from the basic level. It is good, at least it lives with them as they move to the tertiary level. However, there is a unit responsible for that in the higher education institution, which is the counseling unit. And I'm imploring them to go in all out and not be more of like a reactive unit,
Agyemang,
rather a proactive unit.
You know, in my time at the university, I mean, I certainly had certain issues that I could have spoken to a counselor. But in the region we find ourselves, we were not trained to talk to counselors.
It's unfortunate.
So I think it should start from there. Students,
so right now it
should
should
rather
really
be
start from there.
educated on how to confide in counselors.
No.
Exactly.
Because the counselor is there. The counselor is there.
It's good you are trying to point this issue right now because the confidence in these counselors is not there.
Exactly.
That's why you can't open up.
Exactly.
So you wallow in your challenges.
And then we do what we want to do.
But you know, it's all the good thing is that we need to start now. So now it's two-way. The council unit shouldn't be waiting for you to come knock on their door. They should rather come to
Reach
you
out.
and find a way to open up with you.
Yes.
That's the only way we can prevent these very distressing figures of pregnancy and abortions. And the case study here is the University of Nairobi. It is lesser or can be equally the same in other institutions. And this has to be done very well.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Jemima, anything you'd want to add?
Oh, I think Agyemang has said it all, with his contradictions.
Okay,
No
so
contradiction.
I have a statement here made by the Kenyan Education Cabinet Secretary in the person of Professor George Magoha. And he said higher education and tertiary institutions in Kenya are homes to a large number of sexually active young adults who are vulnerable. We have to take proactive action to salvage and guide them. That's what he said. What do we make of the statement?
Yeah, greetings to Professor Jomagoha. He's been a member of the AAU, really prolific man. And I think he made a very great point right there. He has seen and realized that there's something wrong and it has to be salvaged. And a proactive measure, I mean, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Proactivity is the only way we can curb these menaces. I mean, you don't sit and react to such issues. If you sit to, you'll be so overwhelmed that you wouldn't even know what to do. Be proactive about it. Find ways and means to set in preventive measures so that quality assurance, as the term goes, is put in action.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't want to give them ideas, but I want to implore all senior leaders on campuses to find ways and means to outline measures to curb these ahead of time because they are happening. They are happening.
I would say that I would not agree less with Prof. Magoha's statement because higher education institutions are filled with individuals who fall within the sexual active age group.
Sure.
Which is, let me say, from 13 and above. And these students, or let me say, these individuals are prone to peer influence and are urged to explore new things. There is something about that age. When you get there, you want to explore, you want to do what others are doing.
The exuberance is high.
Exactly. When you see your friends doing and you're not doing, you feel you are left behind.
Exactly.
So I think without proper and early guidance, I think they will easily fall prey to this unplanned pregnancy, psychological and physical abuse. Okay. That's my take.
Well, I say students must be responsible for their own actions because all stakeholders involved would put in their best.
But it's up
if you
to
neglect responsibility, it's really
you.
Going to be in vain. So students must be responsible for their actions, and then stakeholders must also put in all the necessary measures to make sure that we bring this menace to an end, or at least to reduce it. Agyemang.
So in our next story, a former academic and political outsider has become the first woman in the history of Tunisia to lead the country's government. Professor NajlBouden Ramadan, after a long career in teaching at the Tunisian University and administrative work in the Tunisian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, was named Prime Minister on September 29th by Tunisian President Kais Saied, a former university lecturer who seized power in July in a move condemned by his rivals as an attack on democracy. Speaking in an online video, the president said Ramadan's appointment honored Tunisian women. The 63 French educator Ramadan has a PhD in earthquake engineering from École des Mines de Paris. She worked as a geology professor at the National Engineering School of Tunis at Tunis El Mana University. In 2011, she was put in charge of quality at the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research and thereafter continued in the position of head of the Purpose Action Unit in the same ministry. Ramadan has been responsible for implementing the World Bank Finance Program designed to support the modernization of the country's higher education system. That is one amazing news for the higher education community in Africa, and there we have it. For the first time, we have a female leader or government leader in Africa from the higher education institutions or from the higher education community. But how do we find this milestone? How do we define this with this achievement?
First of all, congrats to Prof. Homnain on her appointment as Prime Minister for Tunisia, making history as such as well. Her appointment doesn't only speak for women empowerment, but I would say it is also important in the higher education sector. Being someone who has served a very long time in the higher education sector, she must have a lot of gap, or let me say problems, that she needs to address now that she is in power. So I'll state some of the challenges with higher education institutions in Tunisia. One is academic brain drain, which is students traveling abroad to study. I think that is one challenge. And another is inadequate infrastructure. And lastly, poor salaries for academic and research staff. So I believe, with her lots of experiences in the higher education sector or the arena, I think this is the time to, address the issues or the gaps she finds in those institutions or in the institutions in Tunisia. Yeah.
Lydia.
I think the appointment of Professor Ramadan could be the new dawn for higher education in Tunisia. Why do I say this? Currently, the president of Tunisia himself is an academic, or let me say was, because he was a former university lecturer.
Yes.
Yes.
And fortunately, we also have an academic being the prime minister. So these are two important people ruling the state. We can't deny the fact that higher education in Africa or all over the world has got problems. And definitely we look forward to solving these problems. But mostly you need an insider to understand what goes on in the institution you belong. And here's a case, we have two important people ruling the state who understands the issues going on in higher education. So I think with these two making conscious efforts, almost all problems in higher education could be solved in Tunisia. So I think that is a good one. And as Jemima said, a few problems were highlighted and the Prime Minister was called to try as much as possible to address them. The first was a COVID-19 tracking systems for university communities in Tunisia. This is because currently Tunisia is the second ranked country in Africa that has got the most COVID-19 death, which is quite pathetic. Fortunately, there are students who are contracting COVID and dying as a result. So they are calling on her to come up with a tracking system that would monitor the number of infections from students and then as well as death. So that is one. And she also mentioned the urgent improvement of infrastructure in the university community and then scientific research as a whole. And then finally, to improve the status of salaries for academic and research staff in Tunisia. Academics in Tunisia at the highest end of the pay scale earn less than the minimum annual salary necessary to sustain a middle class lifestyle, according to the study conducted, which I think is quite pathetic. So she being part of the higher education community, I'm sure she would understand and then address these issues accordingly. So I think this could be a new dawn for higher education in Tunisia.
I find these requests too much for her for the first time though, but she will have to just take care of all these.
I'm sure she's just going to take it one at a time.
Well,
exactly.
Stay with us as we bring you health news after this short break.
Welcome to GTP Health and Safety Corner. If you feel like stepping out, Remember social distancing. You might just save a life. Rock at home, stay at home, stay safe. Wash your hands with soap and running water. Spaced out but still in touch. Check in on your loved ones and stay safe. GTP, timeless.
So moving on to our health news. According to research, the immune system relies on cell surface tags to recognize cancer cells.
Systems relies on cell surface tags to recognize cancer cells. A high-fat diet increases the incidence of colorectal cancer. Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory fellow Semi Bayaz and collaborators from Harvard Medical School and Massachusetts Institute of Technology have discovered that in mice, fat disrupts the relationship between intestinal cells and the immune cells that patrol them looking for emerging tumors. Reconfiguring the gut microbiome may be a way to heal the relationship. The researchers found that a high-fat diet changed the mouse's intestinal microbiome. Several bacteria, including ones called Helicobacter, increase MHC2, which may help immune cells locate abnormal cells. The team did a dirty roommate experiment where mice without these bacteria were housed with ones that had it. The clean mice became infected with the Helicobacter bacteria and produced more of the MHC2 tag. The scientists' findings suggest a new way to boost current immunotherapy treatment against cancer. Increasing the production of this MHC2 tag either by diet, drugs, or changing the microbiomes in the body can help the immune system recognize and eliminate cancer cells, Bayer says. This interaction between diet, microbes, and immune recognition has the potential to help us explain how lifestyle factors can contribute to tumor initiation, progression, or response to therapy. Cancer cells use many tricks to avoid being recognized as abnormal by the immune system, but Bayaz hopes has found several ways to outwit them. Cancer cells use many tricks to avoid being recognized as abnormal by the immune system, but Bayaz hopes he's found several ways to outwit them.
So that is an interesting one with how high-fat diet allows cancer to go unnoticed. But I would want us to discuss how high-fat diet helps the cancer to go unnoticed. Agyemang?
I sincerely find, the study quite controversial.
Okay.
Because we've had discussions on how high-fat diet also goes to the benefit of some people.
Exactly.
In epileptic patients, ketogenic diets are diets with high fat, low carbohydrate, and some amount of protein. And these are needed by the body to reduce convulsion.
Yes.
So in the same vein, if on the other hand you say that high-fat diet goes a long way to also reduce the effort of our microbiomes and gut to not spot cancers, then perhaps there's, I want to raise my eyebrows. I wouldn't want to tear it down. It's steady and it's in progress. But from the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, they actually took this study with 2 mice, and they realized that there are cell surface tags on the intestinal tract for everybody, and these tags are able to identify cancer when they are in progressive growth.
Exactly.
In this case, they fed one mice with high-fat diet and the other none, and they realized that the diet that was fed with high-fat diet, microbes and guts, bacteria, they reduced in efforts to identify the gradual progression of cancer in the system. And this was the revelation. And they find, that means that we have found out that if you eat so much of high-fat diet, then perhaps you reduce the effort of those bacteria in your immune systems to identify or to be able to track the growth of cancer. Well, it's a fair declaration right there.
Exactly.
I wouldn't want to.
Lydia, would you?
Okay, well, the study mentioned that the immune system, first of all, relies on these cell surface tags to recognize cancer cells.
Exactly.
So if taking in a lot of high-fat diet would reduce these surface tags, then definitely the study makes sense, although it hasn't been scientifically proven. Because after taking in the fat and whatever, or after getting your cancer, you need these cell surface tags to be able to identify that indeed you have cancer, and then you would progress to treating it. So I think it makes sense. But I actually, Agyemang, with what you said, I beg to differ, because I believe in with everything, it comes with advantages and disadvantages. You mentioned quite a number of advantages that comes with taking high. And then also about what you said earlier, I beg to differ. You mentioned a number of advantages that comes with taking in high-fat diets. However, it also has disadvantages. Some of these are getting heart diseases, there's obesity, diabetes, stroke, liver disease, there's cancer. So much as we have earlier had discussions on how high-fat diet helps in epilepsy, it also comes with certain disadvantages. So let's not forget that.
I just try to make that kind of the point clear that we have a group of people who are really needed, or who need high-fat diet to reduce convulsion. However, this same high-fat diet goes a long way to suppress the strength of our immune cells to be able to spot the growth of cancer. So it was just like trying to unveil the controversy here that these same high-fat diets are needed to suppress convulsion in some people. However, it can also go a long way to suppress the strength of our immune cells.
But if indeed this study is actually true and real, then high-fat diets is very, very dangerous, because fine, a lot of people have cancer, but you can have cancer, but if taking in the high-fat diet would prevent a doctor or a medical practitioner from identifying that you have cancer, then it's serious, because then it means the more you take it in, you're probably going to just die one day, just like that,
and no one will know about it.
So much as there are advantages and disadvantages, I think we should be taking it with caution. Just reduce the intake of high-fat diets, because it comes with advantages
and modulated intake. That would do.
Exactly.
So moving on with our health news, researchers have developed a dynamic respirator that modulates its pore size in response to changing conditions such as exercise or air pollution levels, allowing the wearer to breathe easier when the highest level of filtrations are not required. Coronavirus pandemic, many people have grown accustomed to wearing face masks to protect themselves and others, but doesn't mean the masks are always comfortable, especially during exercise. Now, researchers reporting in have developed a dynamic respirator that modulates its pore size in response to changing conditions such as exercise or air pollution levels, allowing the wearer to breathe easier when the highest levels of filtration are not required. Face masks protect against the spread of the virus that causes COVID-19, but are also worn by people with respiratory problems to filter out harmful pollutants. However, in some circumstances, high levels of filtration aren't needed, such as when the air pollution levels are low or when someone is exercising outdoors alone, which is generally considered a low-risk activity for spreading COVID-19. But current masks can't adjust to the changing conditions. With time, the trapped, exhaled breath can create sensation of heat, humidity, bad breath, and discomfort, especially as more breath gets exhaled during exercise. Researchers wanted to make a respirator that could automatically adjust its filtration characteristics in response to changing conditions. The researchers developed a dynamic air filter with micropulse that expand when the filter is stretched, allowing more air to pass through. The team then placed a stretcher around the filter that was connected to a lightweight, portable device containing a sensor and pumped the microcontroller chip. The device communicates wirelessly with an external computer running artificial intelligence software that reacts to particulate matter in the air, as well as changes in the wearer's respiratory patterns during exercise. 2 of the filters were placed on each side of the face mask and tested on human volunteers. The stretcher correctly generated a smaller increase in the pore size when a volunteer exercised in a pollutant atmosphere when they exercise in clean air. Notably, the artificial intelligence software allows the respirator to adapt to individuals' unique respiratory characteristics, which could be used to develop a personalized face mask, the researchers say. To make the system smaller, lighter, and less circumscribed, the stretcher could eventually be redesigned to have a pump-free mechanism, they added.
So that is an interesting one, looking at the a new invention of the dynamic face mask. So right now, I would want us to discuss, currently when you look around us, there are, different type of nose masks people wear. So I would want us to talk about that with a little features of what we have now. And then we talk about the new one that we are just looking at or we are just bringing on board and its properties, and then we compare.
Thank you. We're going to get a bit demonstrative right here to illustrate the whole thing. Okay. It is good that research is part of us because we keep growing in our findings and make things easier and better.
Exactly.
Taking this mask as an example, we have so many masks around that, or face masks that are like this.
Yes.
It has no point of air refreshing or air purification. This is just an air filter generally. So let's say I put it on like this. And then it's on my face.
Agyemang, is that how you put on your nose mask on a daily basis?
I pen it down. It's a demonstration.
It's a demonstration. Please allow Agyemang.
So with this one, if it is stuck here all day, I breathe in and out.
Exactly.
Very uncomfortable carbon dioxide. Right in this same space.
Yes.
I'm supposed to have it very tight.
Exactly.
This can be used when, let's say, I'm at work. But if I want to exercise, as a study emphasized, I'm going to really suffocate because I'm going to go a long distance trying to get fresh air.
But you are not receiving it.
Exactly. And it becomes more hotter. And, after using this for, let's say, a number of hours, you wouldn't be comfortable for anybody because now the kind of air condition in it is not conducive for you.
And even the heat alone that it accumulates.
Because of carbon dioxide part of it.
So, however, Lydia, okay.
However,
with the new one, with the new one,
yes,
I think we saw that it has this air filter, electronic air filter component to it.
That's true.
What it does is that it's artificial intelligence. It assesses the environment. It's to detect the kind of air around, detect the pollutants, and finds the best way to get you the best air. Let's say a mini air condition to your nose mask. Therefore, reducing the suffocation, you can exercise with it because it will still give you that air you need, the fresh air you need to move on.
Exactly.
And I think this is the future. After using these manual nose masks, we have an automatic one that can help up in other activities like exercising. Very important.
Yeah, that's very important.
Try to talk to anyone who has used this kind of nose mask or any other kind of nose mask that is on the markets right now, and they'll tell you that they wear it because they have to, because breathing in it is not easy. But I mean, you need to do it to prevent COVID. So if we have a nose mask coming in that has an electronic air filter in it, then I think it's an amazing one. So now we would freely wear the nose mask because when you get to certain places, you will still get your air. I think it's an amazing one.
True. So that is an amazing one, of course.
Yeah. And that is all for the news this morning. And in wrapping up, let's take a quick recap of our headlines. On higher education, new project aims to foster students' health and well-being. And also, female academic makes history by being appointed Prime Minister.
So in our health news, study reveals how high-fat diet allows cancer cells to go unnoticed. And again, AI-driven dynamic face masks adapt to exercise pollution levels.
And now thank you very much for watching the AAU TV news as we keep you informed. My name is Lydia Nyame.
And I am Jemima Deladem Dotsey.
My name is Agyemang, Okyere, and I'm glad you had time to watch us on the AAU TV Mid-Week news. Stay with us more, watch our programs, and be safe. Have a nice day and bye.